of Famer Chris Carter. That is Nick Wright. We had a fantastic weekend of sports. All three of us were in three different places on one big, gigantic Masters text all weekend long, which was really nice. It's nice that I could still be with you even when I'm not with you.
Hold on, that's great.
What is that?
No.
What is that?
All right.
Hold on. If you turn the camera around, everyone in the studio is holding a pen, knowing full well that I forgot.
You're one away from being even.
Cece?
Chris finally won one of these bets.
Okay. Full disclosure to America.
Here we go.
Full disclosure.
Let's hear it.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
You know, I use this analogy a lot.
Yeah.
Jenna's like Randy Moss, but I got to make sure I get her to the field.
Did you give her this pin?
I got
Give me that backhand. You owe me $100.
I walked out here, Nick, on Friday, I said, I'm going to bring a box of pens. I'm going to keep
forgot it again?
all of them.
That's $300 you've cost this
I know,
man.
but listen.
He could buy you 600 pins.
There will be a box of pens under the table
that's what
tomorrow.
You said last week.
No, this time I won't forget. All right, should we start the show now that I'm like Randy Moss?
Maybe you should mature a la Odell Beckham.
I
bet
what's
Odell's
happening.
got hot takes on your inability to come to work prepared.
I bet Odell has pens, too.
Maybe you do a little touchdown dance when you finally bring a damn pin to work.
Not the way he does it. Hey, we start this morning with the latest on Odell Beckham Jr. Last week, trade rumors were flying about Odell, one of the most talented players to come through the organization in years because of all the off-the-field distractions. I wondered aloud, in the form of a question, whether we thought Odell had perhaps realized what those distractions were possibly costing him. The answer was seemingly a resounding yes. The team holds the first day of off-season workouts today, and Odell has told reporters that he will be there, even without the new contract he wants. So, Chris, I'll open the conversation up with you. How important is it for Odell and the Giants that he is showing up today? Because there were other rumors that he wasn't going to show up at all until he got his new contract.
It's very important because it's not only the first day of the new football season, but it's also the first day for the new head coach. Let's not forget, Pat Shermer came over, offensive coordinator from Minnesota. Him and Odell had struck up some type of relationship before we get to this point. Dave Gettleman, he's the new general manager, coming over from Carolina. Both of them very, very respected. It's very important that they are able to show Giants fans and the Giant locker room that everyone's on the same page. It's nice that we've had these rumors about Odell, getting traded and everything. We know there's tremendous value out there, but today is the first day. So it becomes very important that the message, that they can stay on cue. Odell told reporters, told some other people that he's going to be there. At this point where Odell is, it's very important that he's able to live up to everything that he said. Now, when the video surfaced, that was the problem Pat Shermer and Dave Gettleman that they had. This is not the type of behavior that we had discussed. The owners, when they talked about being disappointed, because it's not the behavior, it's not things that we said that we would be involved with this offseason, with this being, let's not forget, his most important offseason. So it's very important to be there. It's very important, given that he hadn't seen his teammates or been around his teammates, that you're starting to build what the New York Giants are going to look like in 2018.
Before I answer, I want to ask you one question, and it's a little tough because it's a predictive question about something that didn't happen. If this video hadn't come out, would Odell be there today without his contract?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Absolutely.
So you think that this wasn't something of a make good? You think this was his plan would have always been to show up to this part of the offseason
Not that there's anything wrong with a make good. That would have been a fine gesture.
But you think this form of the offseason he was going to show up to regardless of video?
Right, because the chance of him getting hurt are minimal.
Okay.
I mean, there's a minimum chance that he's going to get hurt, but the overall message to his teammates and everything, off-season training is not training camp. And trying to compare them and make them the same thing, I believe it wouldn't play well to the players in the locker room.
Okay, all right. So that's interesting. My takeaway from where we're at now with the Odell Beckham situation is once he gets there, I hope it is a reminder to him and to the organization that if we don't get this figured out, if we don't come to some type of long-term contract agreement that then ends up resulting in Odell getting traded if they don't come to that, I believe it is something both parties will regret. I think Odell will regret if he's no longer a New York Giant. And I think the Giants will unquestionably regret if they couldn't make it work with the most talented player this team has had since Lawrence
It wouldn't
Taylor.
be the Giants' fault, though. What have the Giants done wrong?
Well, if they end up trading him, if they end up deciding that...
But if they trade
The
him...
only way they would trade him is if they couldn't come to a contract agreement. So that would be his demands are too outrageous for them. They would have to come off of him. So what have the Giants done? The Giants have not... There is no fault, or there shouldn't be any regret as far as the Giants are concerned.
Well, I don't always, you and I tend to look at contract negotiations a little differently. I don't always look at when two parties can't come to an agreement. I have to know the details of the negotiation before I'm ready to say the player was being unreasonable. Sometimes the player's unreasonable. Sometimes the team's unreasonable. I just think the best case scenario, Jenna, for both parties is that they work out a contract and that Odell spends the bulk of, if not the entirety of his career with the Giants. And I think this is a step in that direction. If we heard today he wasn't showing up, that would be another step away from each other when these two parties should be taking steps toward each other.
If he didn't show up today, the Giants are not taking a step. The Giants are at the building. They run the business. They're there. If Odell doesn't show up, that's him taking a step away from them.
I agree with you on
That's not them.
I agree with that. Go ahead.
Do either of you think that Odell has lost leverage when it comes to the negotiations now? I know we're both talking about the Giants coming and Odell coming to the table and trying to resolve something, but do you feel, I thought him showing up meant he lost a little bit of hand in this negotiation because of everything that happened, because now trade rumors were swirling, which there were never going to be trade rumors about Odell Beckham, seemingly. But do you think now he's lost a little bit of the power or the leverage he's had when it comes to now demanding what he thinks he's owed in his contract?
Well, of course, with the information comes out, he can't be as demanding. How much is that? No one knows. The Giants own his rights. The Giants can also franchise him. So there's not a lot Odell can do besides just talk. The only thing he can do is try to show up and get the contract. If the demands are too high, like, there's nothing the Giants can do about that. They still have Eli Manning on the books for $20 million. Like, so it becomes difficult. How much money are they going to commit to someone who they can't predict what he's going to do in the future? It's not necessarily always the money. It's the inability to predict what's going to happen in the future, which is probably more troublesome for the Giants.
What's going to happen as far as his health, or what's going to happen as far as his off-the-field stuff?
I think the health thing, I think people have to recognize the type of injury he had.
It was a fluke.
Well, I mean, I don't...
He's not considered an injury risk.
Exactly. He's not a guy that's been injury prone. It's not the type of injury that when it happens, you're like, oh, it's not Steph Curry spraining his ankle, where it's like, oh, high risk of reoccurrence. It's a broken bone. So, and if we remember, if we can go all the way back, it feels like a lifetime ago, that after the major injury happened, not the preseason injury, but the major one, Chris talking to Odell on the phone and trying to make him feel better about the situation was like, hey, let's just go up your body and talk about how much worse it could have been.
Yes.
What if it was your knee? What if it was your hip? What if it was your back? What if it was your neck? Like, if you're going to suffer a broken bone, as odd as it sounds, like ankle and I guess forearm would be the ones that you can most easily recover from as a wide receiver. To answer your question, I think the total dollar amount his contract is going to end up being is not going to be that much different than if this video hadn't come out. What I think will be different is the amount of that is fully guaranteed and the amount of that is voidable through bad behavior or suspension. That's where I think he really put himself in the jackpot with this. Is he has very little negotiating power to say, why would you want these clauses in my contract, when they could just say, well, let me show you. Here's why we want those clauses in your contract.
And that's what I meant by leverage.
Yep.
Exactly. His negotiating power is lessened just a little because they have all this stuff out there on him that he's been through and he's done.
What is a day like today, though? Like, what, new coach, I'm not just talking about for Odell, but like for the Giants as a whole, new coach, first day where everyone can be together, everyone can talk. Like, what is actually going on at the Giants facility that he's not going to be a part of?
It's time to issue what Pat Shurmur, how he's going to run the team, what type of coach he's going to be. It's the first time he's addressing all those guys together. In free agency, the offseason, you got a lot of new guys in the locker room, so it's very important. Your nucleus of guys, Odell Beckham, Snacks Harrison, Eli Manning, guys like that they are there and that they are lieutenants for Dave Gettleman, lieutenants for Pat Shurmur, to be able to explain to the younger players, this is what the coach is talking about. This is the kind of offense we're going to have now. This is the kind of defense we're going to, because they're going through a lot of changes with their personnel. So today's an important day to establish what kind of football we're going to play, how the head coach is going to be, and he will issue challenges to the players of what they're doing, and they'll set a goal. I guarantee you the day the Giants will say, we want to be Super Bowl champions, Super Bowl 53 in Atlanta. That's the New York Giants. That's what they typically have done as an organization.
Yes or no, before we move on, are all the trade rumors behind us now, do you think, moving forward? Is that
no, because if the demands are too high, that'll kick up. It's easier to trade before the draft because this year's draft picks are far more advantageous than kicking it off to 2019. But they can't come to a contract agreement. We'll be discussing it again.
Right, got a little more time then. All right, coming up, switch gears, talk a little basketball. Hey, how dangerous are the 76ers to the Cavaliers? That's next on First and First. 2 months after Philly became the best team in football, Philly now poised to do the same in basketball. They got a big win over the Cavs on Friday night. Sunday, they followed it up with a win over the Mavs, their 14th straight win in a row. Philly currently sits as the 3 seed in the Eastern Conference. Way to trust the process. Nick, how much of a threat are the 76ers to the Cavs now in the East? Seeing what you've seen over the last 14 games.
Seeing what I've been seeing over the last 14 games, seeing Ben Simmons assert himself in this league without Joel Embiid. I mean, I filled out my All-NBA ballot this weekend. The hardest person not to include was rookie Ben Simmons. He might already be one of the 20 best players in the league. That's not even to mention Embiid, who clearly already is one of the 20 best players in the league. And by the way, he'll be back. If there is any threat in the East to the Cavs, it is not Toronto. It is certainly not Boston. It's not the plucky Pacers or the defensive-minded Heat. It is these Philadelphia 76ers. And when you add to it, Markelle Fultz coming off the bench, little energy sixth man, going to give you 20 minutes and somehow 15 points in those 20 minutes. I do not believe Philadelphia has the requisite experience to win 3 rounds in the playoffs, which is what they would have to be. Because of where they're going to fall, either 3-4 or 4-3 with Cleveland, they wouldn't even be able to meet each other until the Eastern Conference Finals. But that's positive for Cleveland, by the way, because it's going to give them a couple rounds to get their full roster there, to try to get in full playoff mode. Because Philly right now is playing better than any team in the league except for Houston. And they are a dangerous team that takes high-efficiency shots. That addition of Bellinelli and Ilyasova has been underrated. So I said, what was it, 6 weeks ago, a month ago, CC, that if you were to tell me someone other than the Cavs made the finals, I would say it's Philly, and I still feel that way. I don't think they're going to beat Cleveland, but they're the only team I feel that Cleveland doesn't want to play in the Eastern Conference playoffs.
Well, one thing about Philadelphia, their coach and how they play is underrated. People say, oh, Philadelphia is good. They got good young talent. But they don't really know how they play. They don't know for which the style they do play. And the one thing you didn't mention, Joel Embiid, that's the biggest problem for the Cavs, all right? How he can control the paint, leading the NBA in paints in the post-up, paints in the point.
Points in the paint.
And then also his ability to be able to stretch the court that he would bring either Kevin Love, Larry Nance Jr. to the three-point line, and they can drive to the hoop. That's one thing I've seen in this winning streak, their ability to run their offense and get good looks inside the paint. J.J. Redick is a nice role player, but in speaking about Philadelphia, speaking about the coach, these are all positive things. If you're worried about Philadelphia against the Cavs, that's a Cavs problem too. You might not want to admit that, but there's a problem in the Cavs and what you've seen with the Cavs, because at this point in the process, the Cleveland Cavaliers at full strength and LeBron, they wouldn't be worried. If they were playing good, they were playing at full strength, they wouldn't be worried about a team like Philadelphia. They got no experience. It's their first time collectively getting into the playoffs. So, yes, Philadelphia is doing well, but it's also because one of your eyes has watched Cleveland, and you realize they have some things that you don't know how they're going to transition to the playoffs.
And Cleveland, Rodney Hood in the game Friday night against Philadelphia, Rodney Hood leaves with a sore Achilles. That's been the knock on him throughout his career. George Hill still is not back. But you mentioned Joel Embiid. Listen, the Cavs have decided with starting Kevin Love at center, going LeBron, Jeff Green, Kevin Love as your front line, no Larry Nance, no Tristan Thompson, we are going to give up something on the defensive end to gain it on the offensive end. That is also muted against Philadelphia because Joel Embiid can go out and guard you 20 feet from the basket. Joel Embiid's going to be the defensive player of the year in this league, or at least he should be. And he can punish you, as CeCe mentioned, when he has the ball on the offensive end. The reason this game Friday night was so important, the game where Philly was up 30, Cleveland came nearly all the way back but ended up losing, is if Philly goes 2-0 down the stretch, if they win tonight, or if they win their last two games, their last game's against Milwaukee, they will be the 3 seed. Man, that 3 seed and potentially getting Boston in round 2 is a huge coup, as opposed to having to play Toronto in round 2. It might not matter that much to Cleveland. It matters a ton to these guys because Boston, by the way, with no Kyrie Irving, all of a sudden they've got the same type of playoff experience Philadelphia does. Almost none outside of Al Horford and the head coach. So the game to watch in the Eastern Conference, there's only one game that matters the rest of the year in the Eastern Conference. Milwaukee and Philly Wednesday night. That's the game that will determine if Philly is the 3 seed or the 4 seed. That is enormously important to Cleveland and their ability to get through series quickly, and Philly's ability to supercharge this process by potentially getting to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Are you encouraged by the fact that they played this well and they've missed Joel Embiid through a decent part of it? They do hopefully get him back for maybe he'll miss a game or two of the playoffs. My question would also be, what is considered success for the Sixers in the postseason? Do you see them getting out of the first round, no problem? If they get to the second round, is that a successful season with where they are right now?
Okay, the first part of your question, Joel Embiid had really started them on this winning streak. Now, that's why I've said the coaching has been so good because they've changed their style just a little bit because they don't have the post-up presence of Embiid in there. But they've been able to get to the basket, and they pass the ball marvelously as a basketball team. It's really a pleasure to watch. Now, Joel Embiid, I mean, what a personality, but what a talent. Mm-hmm. Now, I wouldn't want to play him. Now, you mentioned something about him playing defense. He can guard the three-point line. But if he's just on Kevin Love, there ain't no rim protection. So it plays into LeBron and the rest of the team getting to the hole. So I'm very interested in Philadelphia. It has shown a lot with them continuing this streak with him being out, but it's also showed the maturity and the growth of the rest of the team.
And you think this has already been a successful year? Like already, 50 wins making the playoffs, already been a successful
regardless
year.
Of what happens.
Listen, if they end up losing to Milwaukee and they fall to the 4 seed, Indiana's been good this year. Like, could Indiana theoretically beat them, particularly if Embiid misses game
That would be
one?
disappointing.
It would be disappointing
Yes.
if they lose to Indiana in round 1 or if they lose to Miami in round 1. It's already been a successful year in my eyes. For them to consider a success, you have to at least get to round 2, I'm sure. But they should remember, OKC, the first year, Harden, Russ, and Durant. 3 MVPs made the playoffs. They lost in the first round. Now, they lost to the team that went on to win the title, Los Angeles Lakers, but they lost in the first round. But this is what they've done without Embiid. I know they had the easiest schedule in the league since Embiid went down. But the Cavs were their one tough game, and they were up 30 in the second quarter on Cleveland. That's a real thing that happened.
All right, coming up, how encouraged should we be about Tiger Woods after what we saw from the Masters this weekend? That's next on First Things First.
This is Nick Wright, and I wanted to tell you that this episode of the First Things First podcast is brought to you by Buffalo Wild Wings. There's a new boss in town at Buffalo Wild Wings, and he deals in bacon. It's the Bacon Boss Burger, featuring bacon 3 different ways and a blanket. I said a blanket of white cheese sauce. And he's joined by other new favorites like the smothered cheesesteak quesadilla, sweet chili shrimp, and Alaskan cod classic. All pair perfectly with a Sam 76, a fruity ale with the crisp finish of a lager. Hurry in today. Try them all before they're gone at Buffalo Wild Wings. Wings, beer, sports, available for only a limited time while supplies last. And please, of course, drink responsibly. Now, back to the show.
Time for some stories
Jim
to start
Brown,
your
right?
morning.
Best lacrosse player
Yeah,
ever.
you're right. Yesterday, Patrick Reed clinched his first career major, winning the Masters in his Nike Hot Pink. Entering Sunday, Reed held a 3-shot lead, and then yesterday he played unevenly but was able to hold on by shooting a 1 under par 71. CC, what did you make of Reed's performance yesterday?
Tremendous performance. And not only him playing golf, but the pressure with the best players in the world. If you look at the leaderboard, no one was ranked higher than 27th in the world coming down the stretch. So not only did he have to play his best golf at the greatest golf tournament ever in the Masters, but he had the best players in the world chasing him who were playing at their absolute. Very impressive that he was even able to have some type of faults there at the end, but able to overcome them with the birdie machine. He had an amazing 4 days.
Amazing 4 days. Couple things. One is very early in the final round when it looked like after 2 holes it could be even. Rory had played well. He had faltered on the first 2, and then he was able to withstand that, and Rory fell by the wayside. Then at the last 2 holes, when all of a sudden my guy, with the funny pants, the guy who came in second place, Ricky Fowler, pardon me.
Yes,
Ricky
him and Jordan
Fowler,
Spieth made a run for it.
Spieth made a run, but then when Fowler's on 18, getting ready to go in the clubhouse at 14 under, Reed's on 17 with a super long putt for birdie that looks like, man, he could bogey and we could be tied going into 18. He almost holes out that really long putt for birdie, ends up hopping over the hole.
He was very, very fortunate that hit the stick and hit the hole.
Oh, it would have gone far.
Yes, it would have been tied up.
And then to be able to par 18, I mean, it was great. The way he closed, knowing he had those putts for the Masters, was great. It
was a great tournament. The Giancarlo Stanton era in the Bronx is off to a slow start. Over the weekend, he became the first player in over 100 years to go hitless with 5 strikeouts in 2 games in the same season. The first player to do anything in 100 years, kind of a big deal. Stanton is batting .167 with 20 Ks in 10 games. He's currently on pace for 324 strikeouts. CC, what do you make of Stanton's struggles? Should we be worried this early?
Anytime you make the transition, even as a veteran player coming to New York, we've seen them have other big stars come, and they've also struggled. It's hard to play in New York. It's not just a myth, not just what people talk about. It's hard to play. And let alone, this has been one of the worst winters ever. And I got someone who lives with me that reminds me of that every single day. It's cold. It's too
cold
for baseball. All right? It's too cold at night. Like, it's too cold. He came from Miami. I believe that that's had an effect on the batting average being so low.
All right, so a couple things. Another transition. National League to American League. It's another thing that he's having to deal with. Also, anyone that followed him in Miami, one of my favorite radio shows is a local Miami radio show, so I know an inordinate amount of the Marlins. Like, he would go through these streaks. He would go through these types of stretches and then catch white hot for a month or so. That's what happened last year, by the way, when he caught white hot and almost got to 60 home runs. What I will say is this. To do anything that's never been done, hadn't been done in a season in 100 years, and you've done it before we're 10% of the way through a season, that ain't great. And I know what Yankee fans are doing right now. They're like, so what's on his contract? Don't worry, Yankee fans. All that's left on his contract is 9 years, $270 million. Say that to say this. I think Stanton's going to be fine, but he has to be fine because he's got $250 million in a decade left on his deal.
Bigger takeaway, you're listening to local radio stations from Miami in your spare time?
Yeah, I am. I'm dedicated to my job.
I got to talk to Danielle.
Okay.
The Eagles won their first Super Bowl, and they are now resting on their laurels. So far this season, they've added Michael Bennett, Mike Wallace, Haloti Ngata. However, according to reports, some anonymous NFL execs are not impressed with the moves. NFL execs can be so anti-moves. CC, what do you think of the Eagles' offseason so far?
I really don't put too much credence in what ex-NFL anonymous guys like are saying because I'm watching Philadelphia. I know they're improved. Forget about just the moves they made. Bennett makes them better. Bringing Chris Long back makes them better. What about Carson Wentz coming back starting? That makes him better. I know Mike Wallace makes him better. And just in case, Nick, you didn't have confidence in him, Nick Foles as your backup.
Yeah. Listen,
I mean,
there's
what else you want from a Super Bowl champ?
There's nothing to criticize with Philly. They're taking advantage of having their star quarterback on a rookie deal. Torrey Smith was fine. Mike Wallace is an upgrade. Vinny Curry was fine. Michael Bennett is an upgrade. They didn't even lose Fletcher Cox or Brandon Graham, but they still brought in Haloti Ngata. And
let's not forget the collection of starters that they lost to injury that will be coming back. Jordan Hicks, their middle linebacker. Yeah. Jason Peters, their left tackle.
100%. Listen, there is one bad part of the Philly offseason, and it's the one thing this anonymous exec totally ignored. That's losing Frank Reich. But that's going to happen when you win a Super Bowl. They almost got away with it. They almost got away with not losing Frank Reich because it only happened after the Josh McDaniels situation. But all their player personnel moves, to me, have been spot on. And it's not even like like there's a lot of noise surrounding them. I don't know how you can criticize what Philly's done over the last few months.
And the team that won their Super Bowl gets a franchise quarterback to start next season.
I wish we had the name of the team that this executive came from so I could look at his roster
right.
and compare him to the Eagles roster.
Yesterday, back to basketball, the Warriors beat the Suns. However, the team hasn't been playing well, the Warriors, that is. 9-7 in their last 16 with only a few future Hall of Famers in the lineup, not all 4. Also, head coach Steve Kerr criticized the team's defense and effort last week. Nick Wright, what do you make of the Warriors' performance without Steph?
Man, maybe I've overstated how good this team can be, at least in short stretches, with KD, Clay, and Draymond. Like, this is, I pounded the table. I said, they got no chance of losing in the first round, even if Steph's not out there. Well, the way they've been playing, these 16 games without him, 7-9, a losing record since while he's been gone in this long stretch of time. He played one of those games briefly and got hurt again in it. Like, that's concerning for them. It doesn't seem to me to be a flip to switch type of thing. It seems to me that the team doesn't know how to play elite offensive basketball without Steph. And what they had been doing earlier in the year, CC, when Steph was out, was playing super elite defensive basketball. That's fallen by the wayside somewhat as well. They just look like a regular, pretty good basketball team the last month. That's something we haven't seen from this team in years.
Right. You can't make anything without Steph being there. What other superstar could leave a team and be like, oh, they're okay? LeBron left the Cavs? No, it wouldn't happen.
But every other team is not built like this one.
Well, that's why it's my turn to talk, Nick, okay? Like, this team I'm not concerned about. They're also going through a little boredom. All right, been to 3 straight finals. Their opportunity broke the NBA record as far as wins in the regular season. Yeah, they can be a little lethargic, but we've seen this with other teams, and we gave them that grace period. You know something? They'll be all right when they get to the playoff. You know what? They'll be all right when Steph gets back. That's the way the team was made. The team is not meant to play without one of their 4 superstars.
All right, over the weekend, the Cavs were down by 30 to the Sixers, almost mounted the comeback of all comebacks. But LeBron missed 2 free throws late. In fact, he's shooting 8 for 17 from the line in the final 10 seconds of one-possession games this season. That's the worst percentage in a season in the last 20 years. Nick, what do you make of LeBron's struggles at the line?
So that stat is at least slightly skewed because a few of those were intentionally missed. But there is no doubt about this. This year, LeBron, clutch free throws, has been not only the only weakness of his offensive game so far, but one of the biggest weaknesses of any superstar's offensive game that we've seen in the league. Like, those, even if we want to get rid of the couple intentionally missed, so now it's 8 for 15 or 8 for 14, that still ain't great. That's still not what you want there. And so this year, that is a fair criticism of LeBron. Now, I reject the idea that that is some overarching theme of his career. In the last decade in the NBA, there have been 2 game 7s in the NBA Finals. Both of those game 7s ended with LeBron James hitting the game-winning free throws. Like, that, you don't get more pressure-packed than Game 7, game-on-the-line NBA Finals. LeBron James made free throws to win those games or to ice those games. So, historically, I don't think this is a problem. This year, those numbers aren't lying. Like, you saw it, and it's hard for anyone to go to the line and make 3 in a row to tie it, down 3 a second left. What, see?
It's hard for who?
Anyone.
For an NBA player?
Yeah, what do you think?
It's hard for an NBA player to go to the line with 3 shots. All he's got to do is make all 3 of them to tie up the game. That's what you're saying.
What I'm saying is if you're an 80% shooter, you have a 50% chance of doing that. That's what I'm saying. That's simply a fact.
I mean, I didn't know that they were moving the free throw line. I didn't know they was going to move the bucket. It is a free throw.
Yeah, I understand. Cece,
and of all the superstars in the league, you would have confidence they were going to the line. They got fouled for a 3. There might be a reason why Philadelphia fouled him there.
No. They weren't trying to foul him on a shot for 3. They were trying to foul before he took the shot. Like, at no point did they want him to shoot 3 free throws.
Okay, so you're saying there's everyone in the NBA, they haven't seen this stat. So you're saying that it's not in the conversation. They're up by 3. We can foul LeBron. There's a chance he could still miss one. That's not part of the overall psyche.
I'm saying that no team, no matter who the guy is fouling on the shot up 3 intentionally. I don't care if it's Shaquille O'Neal trying to pull up from 3. No team would ever foul on a shot intentionally. They were arguing about it. And the NBA actually came out afterwards and said it should have been called on the ground. They were definitely trying to foul LeBron, but they were trying to foul him so he had 2 free throws.
This is the thing, Jenna. This won't go away. Because if you're ever going to continue the conversation, is he the greatest ever? This right here is going to be one of the glaring holes. His finals record and his free throw shooting, he will never be able to approach Michael Jordan. So then it becomes very, very hard, like, what's your argument? Because especially free throw shooting late, it is critical. And you wouldn't expect someone of his ability to struggle at the free throw line.
Tell me why you struggle at the free. I mean, is it mental? It has to be mental because it's a shot that you can practice for 24 hours a day. It's always going to be the same shot. How does LeBron let one mental thing seep into his game?
Okay, hold on a second. Hold on. The guy is not a great free throw shooter at any point in the game, right? He's around league average. That is the biggest. If we're talking about picking apart the game, which we're going to do if we're calling somebody the greatest ever or one of the greatest ever, it's a fair thing to pick apart. He's around a 75% free throw shooter for his career. A 75% shooter in those situations, instead of being 8 of 17, would be 12 of 17, right? So we're talking about 4 missed free throws. 2 of those were intentionally missed. So we're talking about 2 missed free throws, far from his career average. So the mental part of it, I personally don't buy into. I mentioned the most pressure-packed free throws of his life to win championships he made. But I wanted to go back to something Chris said. Go ahead, Cece.
Free throw shooting is 2 things. One part is mental, Jenna. You are right. It is mental. Other thing, it's his shooting stroke. All right? Yeah. He's changed his shooting motion at the free throw line at least 5 or 6 times during his career. He's working with something else different now. He's taking one step off the free throw line, then getting up. And talking to someone who I know is a great shooter, LeBron's motion, he brings the ball from down by his knees, so the reaction on the shot, he gets a big bounce. Compared to other guys who start a softer motion about from right here at their face and just shoot the free throw. LeBron brings the ball down by his knees and brings the ball up. He believes, because I discussed it with him last week, he believes that's his problem. So, yes, it is mental, because when you are shooting from the three-point line and you can shoot the array of shots that LeBron can shoot, contested, one balance, bank shots, shooting with his left hand, it becomes mental, but it's also the fundamental thing of his stroke at the free throw line. He does not, this is something he has not conquered. He shot thousands of free throws, but this part he has not been able to overcome.
I agree. Yeah. I agree with that entirely. The point that I was making is it would be more concerning if LeBron were a 90% free throw shooter and then had these late game struggles. Sure. It's been a fair knock on him.
But it's a greater sample size. The 90% would cancel out the clutch because you would like, man, over the course of his career, he's 90%.
Yeah.
Like,
it would be more glaring if a guy who's a great free throw shooter, if this were Steph, it's more glaring. Like a guy that's a mediocre free throw shooter, which is what he is, struggling this season late in games is not that shocking. It's not an excuse. I said it's the biggest indictment on
I'm just going to tell you, there was nothing about Michael Jordan's game that was mediocre. There's no point in his game, anything, passing, there's nothing you could say that was about his game that was mediocre.
All right,
and I'm willing to take on any type of...
Well, his three-point shooting. You don't want to have the debate right now, but his three-point shooting was mediocre. Like, we don't have to go into an MJ-LeBron debate, but don't say that and then, like, the three-point shooting was mediocre.
No problem.
Speaking of athletes who may or may not have let the mental game seep into their game on a large stage, here's what the Masters looked like in my house this weekend. Every time any player teed off, my 3-year-old said, "Did Tiger win?" Every single time, because that wasn't annoying or anything. Tiger did not, in fact, win. He didn't come close, but he did finish the last day at 3 under par, and he finished the tournament. First time he's done that in a major in 3 years, and he'll be ranked in the top 100. So he finished tied for 32nd, was never really in contention after the first day. More from Tiger Woods now after his final round.
It's been a couple of years. I've just been coming here just to eat, and to now be able to play this golf course and to be able to tee it up and play in the Masters, this is, one of the greatest walks in all of golf. And I had missed it for the last couple of years. I hadn't been able to play in it. So to now go out there and compete in this tournament and to, face the challenges out there, I missed it. I really did. I miss playing out here. I miss competing against these guys. It's such a great event and the best run event in all of our sport. I want to take a little time off, get back in the gym, start working on my body again, get it in good shape, and get back at it again.
Obviously, I love that in his time off, he's going to go back to the gym. I think I stopped listening after that. What was your takeaway, CC, from Tiger at Augusta this weekend?
It was a monumental week for Tiger. And Tiger talked about, even when he was helping out with the President's Cup 7 months ago, they didn't know he ever played golf again. I mean, competitively. Like, would he be on the PGA Tour? He didn't know that. So to see him make the cut at the Masters, play 4 rounds, not re-injure himself, not have any type of setback. And then also the relationship. Tiger's a different person. He's a totally different human being. He's far more approachable. He's far more into where he is right now in his surroundings. Typically, you would not see Tiger Woods and Phil Mickelson together. They played a great practice round on Tuesday. You could even see him on the course yesterday. I've walked so many rounds with Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods does not talk to his competition. Even if it's someone like Mark O'Mara, he's very seldom even talking to him, and that was one of his best friends on the tour. So seeing him chat it up with Rafa yesterday, that's something he wouldn't do. So where Tiger has come from to be able to get into the Masters and be able to finish tied for 32nd, it's tremendous. From a golf standpoint, didn't hit his irons well, didn't putt well for 4 days. His last day, he's got his driver where he can hit it straight. That becomes very, very important. Next major is the U.S. Open, where the driver is probably the most important club in the bag besides the putter. So monumental return to the PGA Tour this last month, because it's not just this weekend. It's all the other tournaments he's played leading up to this.
Tell me if you agree with this. What was most surprising to me about the 4 days in totality, not just Sunday, was the iron play. Like, he had been so sharp at the Valspar and then the Arnold Palmer. The only criticism of his game at those 2 tournaments, the fair criticism, was his driving accuracy. He was spraying it everywhere. To see the irons desert him to a degree over those 4 days. And then Sunday, he said it, and I totally agreed with him. Like, Sunday, he drove it as well as we've seen him drive it in years. Like, is that fair to say? Like, since he was Player of the Year in 2013, like, he drove it perfectly, nearly perfectly on Sunday. And what's shocking about Sunday is, I mean, he had a 3-putt inside of 6 feet. He had a couple other easy birdie putts missed. He said after the round, I shot a 69, and that was the worst score I could have had. Like, it seemed like he could have easily shot a 66 on Sunday. Now, that wouldn't have got him in contention. But, like, is that what you saw? That's what I saw. That was the iron play is what surprised me more than anything.
Yeah, he drove it off on Sunday. He drove it off number 1, hit it in there about 4 feet, and then lipped the putt in and out. So he was going to try to have a monster round. The first one, he lips in and out. His driving was to perfection yesterday. And being able to do all these things under the gun is what will carry over for Tiger going forward, because he hadn't played in the major, which you had mentioned, in those years. And to be in the weekend, around the spectators, around the other golfers, I believe this is where you want to see Tiger Woods. You can see from the enthusiasm, people watching the tournament, golf is totally different when he's involved.
Tiger shoots 73, 75, 72, and 69. So it was a good way for him to finish. And now, like you said, he'll take a little time off, figure out what happens next. Coming up, can the Thunder make any noise in the playoffs? It's next on First Things First. Come back to First Things First. We're now joined by NBA analyst and I just found out former volleyball player.
Volleyball state, don't say player, state champion.
Yeah,
volleyball state
amazing.
champion.
That's amazing, and I'm jealous, and that's amazing.
You're a good journalist.
I'm a phenomenal
No one knows that information.
You know what else? Great volleyball player.
Oh,
if I do say so myself. Yes, CC.
Cheers, CC.
Hey.
Let's go on to
Had to
the
get a
show.
drink because people went to the refrigerator to get something.
No, nobody did. No one went to the fridge. Everyone's back. Are you back? Here we go. Let's pick this up right where we left off. The NBA served up quite the main course this weekend, Sarah. Thunder and Rockets. Thunder are good when everything's clicking. So are my kids, by the way. Proof? OKC beat the Rockets 108-102. Right now, the Thunder are 46-34. They're tied with the Spurs and Pelicans and still not technically guaranteed a playoff spot. However, Russell Westbrook still has high hopes for the team's potential. Listen to this.
Man, we are a tough group, man. I know when we play our best, nobody can beat us. And I stand strong by that, and I always believe in the guys in this locker room, and did a great job of competing tonight.
All right, what do you think, Sarah? Do the Thunder have a chance to knock off the top teams in the West?
It depends who we're talking about. If you're talking about top teams, including the Golden State Warriors, and if the way things match up, they catch them in the first round, I think the way the Warriors are playing and without Steph Curry, they can give them a match. Do I think that Oklahoma City can knock off Houston? No way. And you look at the way in which Oklahoma City has been playing, and that was a big win against Houston. But I still go back to the the assist percentage and the way in which they don't share the basketball. And I think when it comes to the playoffs, possession style playing, and we talk about this with Toronto all the time, how they've changed the way they played, but they have not been able to advance because of their one-on-one style, isolation style. That's Oklahoma City to me. And so you got a player like Russell Westbrook, who I believe can win you games. Paul George, the type of playoff experience he has. Carmelo Anthony, despite the fact he hasn't been in the playoffs in 5 seasons, but we know that his game goes up a level. But a lot of it is jump shooting. A lot of it is when you're playing the same team, can game plan against that team and how you can structure your defense to try and stop them. I think they are going to have a lot of difficulties in the postseason, despite the fact that they have these 3 All-Stars and the defending MVP of the league.
I'd have more confidence if it was a different format. If it was like the NCAA tournament that we came out of, one and done. Yeah, they would have a chance because you get the right matchup. You win 1 game, you could do it. If it was NFL playoffs, it's 1 and done. It would suit better for their style because they are talented and they do have 1 superstar.
Even CC, if it was the way it used to be, best of 5, you'd feel better about it.
Right.
Not as good, but you'd feel better about it.
Because of Russ.
Yeah, they only got to win 3.
Games.
I mean, 1 less game to win because it comes this. Do I see him beating Kevin Durant 4 times? No. Do I see him beating James Harden? No. He's not going to be able to do that 4 times. And you can't depend on Melo. You said it's that. He hasn't been in the playoffs when?
In 5 years.
So how we know what he's going to do? You think he's going to step up? Like jump shooters late in the season, their legs start to fail them. And that's what you start to see with Melo. Now, in the playoffs, the games are a little more spread apart. But from a defense, he's still going to be a liability. Paul George. What Paul George are we going to see? So, no, I believe that Houston, the way they've played and their talent is superior, even though they did lose this game, superior to OKC. They won't have a problem with OKC or Golden State, even though we haven't seen Steph back playing with them.
OKC also struggles to score at times, and if you look at their point, they're first in the league in points off turnovers. They're first in the league in steals and second chance points. I think third in fast break points. You don't get those same type of offensive production and generation from your defense, I think, because of the possession game in the playoffs as they might now. So I think that's a major area of concern.
I do want to give OKC full credit for what happened this weekend, though. We talked about it quite a bit. The Rockets all year long lost 2 games, had lost 2 games with Harden, Paul, and Capella. And OKC went there and beat them. By the way, they weren't resting anybody. Harden played 36 minutes. Chris Paul played 36 minutes. They you know what I mean? This was one of those
games.
There's
one thing coming down the stretch. The teams that have to win, though, you see the intensity is ratcheted up.
Agree.
You know, Steve Kerr mentioned it over the weekend. It's totally different when you're in the playoffs, even though Houston is playing well. Yes, and they were trying to win. But there are teams out there that are desperate. And when you turn on the TV, you're like, wow, you can tell which team is desperate.
Agreed. That was maybe the biggest edge OKC had. But I'll give them another bit of credit. This was the first game since Christmas against a really good opponent OKC has won without Russ having one of those magical Russ games. 35, 14, 9. Like, Russ, not like he played poorly, but 24, 7, and 10. That's basically below his averages in almost every category. So, like, in fact, it is just below his averages in every single category. So, they deserve credit in that. And there was one other interesting note. If this is a first-round matchup, Russ guarding Harden, particularly down the stretch. Russ asking to guard Harden. You made, though, an interesting point about the style in which Oklahoma City plays, not a lot of assists. Right now, it's funny. The 2 top offenses in the league, Golden State and Houston. Golden State has more assists than anybody by a wide margin. Houston, bottom 5 in the league in assist rate. Why? Well, Houston is successful that way because, as their GM says, they might have the best isolation player ever in James Harden, and Chris Paul is an excellent isolation player. OKC doesn't have that type of skill set for Russ or Paul George. Melo's really their only guy who in his career had been an isolation star, but he's now in a different phase of his career.
So if there is a team that can put it all together and beat one of those, even if it's one night or 2 nights, does this Oklahoma City team have that ability? they have to click on all cylinders.
They have to click on all
admittedly.
cylinders. And I think they've got to do the attention to detail on they're first in the league in offensive rebounding. Steven Adams is an absolute monster, and they get a lot of second chance opportunities and possessions because of that. But they're vulnerable on the defensive end rebounding. Also against different matchups, when teams like a Houston can spread you out, go 5 out, and you've got Steven Adams trying to run around and guard a guy like Clint Capella who can move, or if they go with 5 perimeter players that can shoot the 3, that I think becomes a matchup problem for a team like OKC.
And Russ, as a perimeter defender, is not dependable. Yeah, he did a good job, but he's not. He has not been that way. When Russ goes across the court, he does not have the same intensity that when he dresses with them clothes he wears and that he has on the offensive end. There's a different player on the defensive end on a regular basis throughout his career.
And with that being said, Corey Brewer has done an excellent job since they brought him over, but not having Andre Robertson changes the entire complexion of the Thunder defense, and he can take off a lot of pressure that now Russell Westbrook has to guard guys that he used to have to defend on the wing.
All right, Sarah, stick around. Coming up, can the 76ers make the NBA Finals? Woo, that's next on First Things First. Back here on First Things First with Sarah Kristoff. Sarah, we can't talk about the teams to beat in the East without mentioning the Cavs, Raptors, and Sixers. And we can't call this the Sixers segment if we don't focus on the Sixers. So let's do that. They've won 14 straight. They're currently the 3 seed in the Eastern Conference. First time they've won 50 games since 2001. Sarah, any chance the Sixers could make the finals in the East?
Absolutely.
I'm sorry, not make the Eastern Conference Finals. Make the NBA Finals out of the East.
I'm still going to say absolutely. And I think
I mean, if they could make the Eastern Conference Finals.
I just want to make sure the audience knows the question we're asking. I just want to make sure.
Yeah, we can come after the Cavs.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
We're teaming up on you on this side. No, without a doubt. And I think one of the most impressive things that we have seen now out of this team is the way in which they've been able to play without Joel Embiid. And I think it speaks to their versatility, and they can play fast, they can play slow, they can play in all different ways. You want to go big, you want to go small. This team has a lot of pieces. I know the one thing and the one knock against them, which of course they don't have, is playoff experience because of their youth. But they do have some players who bring that type of veteran experience. And this team as a whole continues to impress me because they are peaking at the right time of the season. Share the ball so well. Speaking of Oklahoma City, the lack of sharing the basketball, Philadelphia has been doing that. They share the basketball. They have shooters. The one area of concern for me with them has been turnovers, and they've led the league in most turnovers throughout the duration of the entire season. That has improved drastically over the last 14 games during this win streak. And I think that's one area, especially during the playoffs and during the postseason, they're going to have to be very wary of, given the fact that the game slows down a bit. Possessions are so much more valuable. But I, without a doubt, think they have a real shot at not only getting to the Eastern Conference Finals, but also potentially advancing.
Listen, they are the only team in the East that when I was doing my All-NBA ballot, almost had 2 players on it. Like Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons listed as guard or forward. I was doing that 6th forward on the All-NBA. I'm like, Paul George or Ben Simmons? I don't know. I ended up like, he is going to be an amazing player. He's already, in my eyes, one of the 25 best players in this league. That's not even to speak to how good Joel Embiid is. And, by the way, how good this team has looked when Markelle Fultz is coming off the bench and giving them some real minutes. Like, I don't know if people are paying attention, but you know that corner that Boston has staked claim to? The Eastern Conference team that's going to run the conference post-LeBron? Philly might not only be on that corner, they might have fully edged Boston off the corner with now the biggest injury concern between the two teams. Maybe it isn't Joel Embiid's foot. Maybe it's Kyrie Irving's knee. Yeah. Like as far as the future, well, when you have Markelle Fultz, and #1 overall pick, who's given you, aside from the last 2 weeks, nothing all year, so they have all those things coming for him. The only reason that, as someone that has said all year long, the Cavs are a lock for the finals, the only reason that Philly has not made me truly nervous is the precedent of needing some level of playoff experience before you go win 3 rounds. Like, I've never seen a team I've seen teams where guys had playoff experience on different rosters, like the 08 Celtics. KG had his experience in Minnesota. Ray Allen had his experience in Seattle and Milwaukee. Paul Pierce, and then they all came together. The first year they make the finals, they win the championship. But that wasn't an inexperienced team. It was just a newly put together team. Everyone that matters on this team has never played in a playoff game, or the most important players never played in a playoff game. That's the only, because they're a more talented roster than Cleveland. They present matchup problems for Cleveland. Like, for all those reasons, like, Phillies are they're the second best team in this conference to me, with, I guess, no disrespect to Toronto, maybe a little disrespect to Toronto. But to me, they're clearly the second most dangerous playoff team in this conference.
One thing you have to watch when you get to playoffs, and Sarah, you've been covering the NBA for a while, so you understand this. The whistle. There's the opposition. We talked about beating the team, but also beating the referees. Now, coming down the stretch in the NBA, in the playoffs, you need a guy who can draw the whistle. The referees, if they just let them play out, then Philadelphia, they're going to have a hard time getting to the finals. But you would think with Joel Embiid, it's his first time in the playoffs, but he's in that superstar realm with LeBron, Harden, Russ, KD, and Steph. All these guys at the end of games, they're going to get a call. The ref is not going to hold the whistle, not going to let you just foul them. We saw in the Philadelphia game. That wasn't a foul on LeBron. Especially wasn't no shooting foul. Like, it should have been on the court. But what'd they give him? They gave him the 3 free throws. That's what happens more so in the playoffs. So if you don't have a superstar, or if you don't have a guy who can make the refs blow the whistle, and we know in post play, they don't blow the whistle in post play. So how does that affect Philadelphia and Joel Embiid and their ability? I think that's something that we have to watch in closing out games with a young team. Their oldest player, J.J. Redick, he's not getting no whistle. He's not no superstar. And the rest of these young players, they're going to have to play through a lot of contact and understand that they have not gotten that status that some of these other players have.
I think that's such an important point, and I think very much so at the end of games. But because of that is why I have a lot more belief in Philadelphia, because of how physical they play. And I've called a couple of Philadelphia games in the past month or month and a half, and being up close and watching them, they are one of these grind-out tough teams that they can hang on you. They can make you feel them.
Do you believe a lot of that comes from their coach? We don't talk about
Brett Brown a lot.
Brett Brown is spectacular. He is spectacular. And you watch what he's done over the years and the mentality that he's instilled in this team. And you want to talk about culture, that word gets tossed around a lot. He has created a culture which they believe. But you're right. And I just think they're physical, being young guys, but they are developed, they are physical, and that's exactly how they play.
And, like, when Cleveland went and beat Toronto these last couple times, one of the words is, Toronto's got nobody to guard LeBron. I've been saying that. And a lot of people reply to me, well, who has someone to guard LeBron? And nobody shuts down LeBron. Nobody shuts down LeBron. But there are players that can slow him down. And the types of players, body types, think about it. The body type is Robert Covington. The body type is maybe Rashawn Holmes. Maybe even in a pinch on a switch, if there's any center in the league other than Draymond Green, I think, that is going to get switched on LeBron and have a shot, I would say it's Joel Embiid. So, like, there are guys they have that can present some trouble to him. But one other thing you mentioned about the whistles, but also you've talked about Joel Embiid leading the NBA in points in the paint. You and I, CeCe, had lunch with I would say, an NBA expert, a former NBA executive coach, the whole nine. And he made the point about how if you have a star big man, how important it is that he rim runs, that he gets easy buckets, because that is the one time where the refs will let you destroy the defender to get position. When Joel Embiid leads the NBA in points in the paint, the audience shouldn't think that's all on post-ups in the half court.
Half court, yeah.
A lot of that is he's getting down there quick. Ben Simmons is kicking it up court, Kevin Love style, and he has a layup at the rim. That will translate to the postseason as well. Philadelphia, you won 50 games after being, and you guys mentioned Brett Brown. Part of Brett Brown's success has been just surviving how awful it was to be that head coach the last few years, and now he's getting to.
But you have to give him a lot of credit, because you see the player development. You see these guys developing, and you got to be able to go to the organization to be able to have patience with him, but also what the coaching staff is doing. These young players have really improved. The process, it does work.
They believe. They're not scared of anyone.
Sarah, thanks so much for hanging out with us.
Sarah,
thanks for having me.
Great
Coming up, can Johnny Manziel get back on an NFL roster? That's next on First Things First. Johnny Manziel is back. Not in the NFL. Not in the CFL. But but the Spring League game in Texas, played in a competitive game that we're talking about for the first time in over 2 years. His numbers were pretty average, 9 for 15, 82 yards and a touchdown. But according to Bleacher Report, execs are describing Johnny Manziel's potential as, quote, off the charts. One thing they didn't mention was the size of the charts. CC, let's break this down, because you saw him a little bit practice. You see him a little bit here in this game. You believe that Manziel has off-the-charts NFL potential?
No, I don't. I wish people would put their names with this kind of mess. Like, if it was off the charts, why didn't he sign? Like, right now, he's available for any NFL team to sign him. Don't seem like that real NFL execs thinks that his potential is off the charts. Like, I think this is totally ridiculous. Now, it's nice to see him playing some type of football. That's not NFL football. You see those offensive linemen out there? The center, the guard, those guys are so undersized. The overall continuity, they've been playing football 2 weeks. Like, so you're not going to see great things from people who've been practicing 2 weeks. So I didn't see it. I'm all for guys improving. I'm all for continuing to grow as a quarterback. I believe the more reps that you can get, it does help you. But to draw that comparison, he has his potential. Like, I didn't see how they could gather that. Well, but maybe they're looking at something that I don't know about.
I don't see it either. But what I will say is this. Quarter of the league sent guys there to go watch him. 8 teams were there, not to watch the offensive linemen. They were there to watch Johnny Manziel. And it's weird because I hope everyone does well. I hope guys overcome things. But this is frustrating for me. It is situations such as this where when we talk about Lamar Jackson, we talk about some of the quarterbacks coming into this draft that I am, and maybe it is the opposite of a blind spot for me. Maybe I see it too often. But I can't help but see enormous amounts of race in this. 25 years old, 6 feet tall, with a domestic violence charge under his belt, drug-addled body from the past, who flamed out in the NFL, who has not played in 830 days. Off-the-charts potential? A guy that we're going to send 8 teams are going to send people to go watch? Here's what I know. What I know is, like, Johnny Manziel is benefiting from an enormous amount of privilege in the idea that he is even considered still a possibility in the NFL. Like, let's not forget, we talk about the drugs, we talk about he hasn't played in 2 years. Let's not forget that in the midst of that, he allegedly shattered a woman's eardrum. Like, in the NFL that is now cognizant, aware, and cares about those types of things. Like, I don't see it with Johnny. I'm glad he's playing somewhere. And by the way, he didn't, in that game, you said it, Jenna, he's 9 of 15 for 80 yards.
Right. Well, let me ask you this. So if you took all that other stuff out of it, was his potential ever off the charts? When he was coming out of college, did you look at him and say, this guy he's got off the charts potential, before we knew about how he was going to flame out in the NFL, all that other stuff?
Maybe the afternoon when he beat Alabama when he was a sophomore, I was like, man, this could be really interesting. This is a pro defense, pro style, Nick Saban going against a bunch of pro players, but that offensive system has not equated to success, not only for Johnny Manziel, but for a lot of quarterbacks. When you are 6 foot, 6'1", you are 190, 200 pounds. No, your potential is not overwhelming in the NFL. There's no guy with that type of dimension, that size, going to be able to take over the NFL. So at no point that I have seen Johnny Manziel that I think that one day he was going to be a superstar in the NFL. I still believe he can develop. I believe he should go to the CFL. I believe it's a game that will help his skill set and allow NFL executives to take a real look at him in real football situations to be able to evaluate his talent.
And this week there was another comment. It wasn't some anonymous NFL executive. It was on the record with a name to it. It was a comment made by Johnny Manziel about the Cleveland Browns, saying, oh, they should have known better. They should have known I wasn't into film study. I put that in the same bucket as, cleaned up Johnny, that I put the comments he made on Instagram where he was celebrating them going 0-16 and saying to people that, I wish nothing but failure essentially on that franchise. That is not, to me, that is not the part of taking accountability for your actions being the biggest determining factor on where you are right now. That's not there. Like, the animosity he has towards Cleveland seemed to give him the shot. Cleveland would have loved for him to be a success.
Of course.
They've been trying to find a quarterback there since Bernie Kosar. Like, him saying Cleveland should have known better, that I wasn't going to study, that I wasn't an X's and O's guy. Like, that's not That's not the self-reflection you would hope for a guy who's trying to get back in the league for the first time in 3 years.
You think there's a team that'll give him a shot? Knowing what you know about the league and how desperate everyone is for a quarterback.
Not yet. If he was to play more football, because quarterbacks are hard to find, I wouldn't be shocked if NFL team brought him to training camp next season.
I would think he'd need a full year, as CC mentioned, in the CFL, a full year of success at a higher level league than the league we just saw on the tape.
Yeah, the guy at right guard, Jenna, he couldn't block you. He ain't no buys, no tries. He ain't been working out. No, he couldn't block you.
He couldn't.
Jenna's swim move is underrated.
Yes.
That's what I've heard.
Coming up, could we see a rematch between Floyd and Conor in the octagon next up?
There we go.
Time for some stories to start your morning.
What's your name, Jenna?
Yesterday, Patrick Reed clinched his first career major by winning the Masters. Entering Sunday, Reed held a 3-shot lead. Then yesterday, played a little unevenly, but he was able to hold on by shooting a 1 under par 71. CC, what'd you make of Reed's performance yesterday?
It was clutch now.
Yeah.
When you have the best players in the world chasing you down on that golf course, and his lead evaporated just like that.
Yeah.
I mean, he on the first hole, he pulls his drive. He's right next to a tree. Oh, let me do something. I hit it down in the bunker. Let me knock it off the green. Let me bogey the first dang on hole. So right from the beginning, his focus and concentration had to be adjusted. So it was amazing for him to be able to go through that lull at the beginning and face some adversity, but still be able to fight off the best players in the world.
And going to the green at 18, he's getting ready to hit a second shot on 18. He knows at that point, if I don't get a par, we're going to a playoff. And Ricky Fowler's got all the momentum. And he was able to hit a good second shot, hit a good lag putt, and then I don't want to say it was a gimme, but it was inside of 4 feet to win the Masters. People don't seem to like Patrick Reed all that much. I got to do more investigation as to why. The crowd was not rooting for him.
For a number of reasons. There's so many great players under the age of 30, and some of those guys happen to be fairly handsome.
Oh, okay. They don't
I
like
think there
the
were other
oversized-
reasons, but we can
Yeah,
get
he's
into
not
that
on Jenna's
later.
workout program.
No.
Well, that he's not, but that wasn't the reason. Tiger Woods played at Augusta for the first time since 2015. On the leaderboard, he finished tied for 32nd place. He was never really in contention after the first day, but he did finish the last day at 3 under par. Nick, what did you take away from Tiger's weekend at Augusta?
Man, I take away that if he could have combined his putting at the Arnold Palmer with his driving on Sunday and his iron play at the Valspar, he'd have won this damn thing.
Oh, they're putting another jacket on.
Right, but they don't let you do that. It was, I'm not going to lie, this was disappointing. I thought he would be in contention the way he had played the last 2 tournaments, Valspar and Arnold Palmer. I thought he'd be in contention on Sunday. It was too much to say he would win it, but I thought he'd be in contention. He wasn't. He played his best round on Sunday. That 69 on Sunday probably should have been a 66, but even that wouldn't have put him in contention. There were signs, but I think this is probably a slight step backwards from where he had been.
Yeah, I totally disagree with you, because the ability to be able to play with the best players in the world under the most stress in the world, a tournament that he liked. 6 months ago, he said, I didn't know if I'd be playing golf. So when you make the cut and you finish, how could it be a bad weekend? Yes, we've seen him play golf better, but with the amount of pressure on Tiger, it was totally unrealistic for him to be able to win this tournament. Him to finish 32nd, that's respectable. For him to get ready for the summer, U.S. Open, the Open at Carnoustie, yes, the PGA Championship. Tiger's going to get in the winner's circle this year. I'm just hoping it's in a major. But it's important that he keeps staying out there, making those cuts and keep grinding it, working on his game. His driver is back.
And got his first eagle. It took a while.
Number 15.
We got it. He got
Yes.
his first eagle on his last eagle opportunity of the weekend.
Yesterday, the Warriors beat the Suns. However, the team hasn't been playing that well, going 7-9 in their last 16, with only a few future Hall of Famers in the lineup. You know, not all 4. Also, head coach Steve Kerr criticized the team's defense and effort last week. Nick, what do you make of the Warriors' performance without Steph?
Steve Kerr, not surprisingly, is right on point here. The waxing and waning effort we've maybe become used to for a team that's made 3 straight finals, knows where they are as far as in the playoff seeding. You understand that. The lack of defense is concerning, and here's why. We know that offensively, they are a drastically different team without Steph Curry. All the numbers back that up. But the one part of their game they had been better at this year when Steph had been out prior to this last couple weeks had been defense. The defense has gotten markedly better without Steph. Now, not as much to make up how much worse the offense is, but now all of a sudden their offense isn't as good. The defense is not getting that much better, which is why for a month now, they've been an average basketball team. We haven't said that about the Warriors since the first season Mark Jackson was there. An average month of basketball, we're not used to seeing that.
Yeah, I'm not as concerned. I believe it has more to do with their overall success in the last 3.5 seasons, more so than their overall ability. Also, with Steph being out, I didn't think the team was going to get better. I mean, you're talking about one of the pure superstars, third best player in the world. He's out of the lineup. The team is supposed to suffer. It's a team built to have 4 superstars function at a high level for them to be able to play the style for which they play. So I believe they're going to be okay. They'll be in the Western Conference Finals.
So the Eagles won their first Super Bowl. As we move on, they're not resting on their laurels. So far this season, they've added Michael Bennett, Mike Wallace, and Haloti Ngata. However, according to reports, some anonymous NFL execs, those are CeCe's favorite kind, by the way, they're not impressed with the moves at all. CeCe, what do you think of basically what the Eagles have done so far this season?
Yeah, a lot of these execs, they're former NFL execs. They're on their second and third career, but they got strong opinions of a team that won the Super Bowl, a team that didn't have their starting quarterback that was in his second year. He's only going to be better in year 3. Now they have the best backup situation from a quarterback in Nick Foles. He's proven himself. Oh, and what about these other few veterans that they've added along the way? So I'm just going to keep evaluating Philadelphia on what Howie Roseman is doing and how I feel about him compared to this former exec, whatever he is, mystery guy.
And by the way, like, I wonder what this exec was saying about the Patriots going into last year. They were the defending Super Bowl champs. They were very active in the offseason. Now, Philly didn't have to trade away their first-round pick to go get Brandon Cooks. They signed Michael Bennett. They trade for Michael Bennett. They signed Mike Wallace. Like, Torrey Smith was fine. Mike Wallace is better. Vinny Curry was fine. Michael Bennett is better. They didn't even lose anyone in the place where Haloti Ngata is in. He's just rotational. Like, I got no criticism about how the Eagles have handled their offseason. None whatsoever. Like, you can't even say, oh, they're thinner at quarterback because they've held on to Nick Foles. Like, no, I don't buy into that criticism at all.
All right, to the NFL now. Cowboys left tackle Tyron Smith says he's, quote, feeling great now, and he's in the best shape he's been in a while. It's good news for Dallas. Over the last 2 seasons, Cowboys are 19-7 with when Smith does play, and they're just 500 when he does not. CeCe, how important is a healthy Tyron Smith for the Cowboys?
Now, we're talking about the best offensive lineman in the NFL. Now, he makes a huge difference. The last couple years, he has battled injuries, and it's not only been the games that he's missed, but he's suffered where he hadn't been able to practice, or they didn't even know if he was going to be available for the game. And if you think that wouldn't affect a young quarterback, if you would think that wouldn't affect the best offensive line, then you don't know how football was being played. He is that kind of great player that it would affect Dak. It would affect Zeke being able to run the football and the variance for which they can call plays or how many times they had to put a tight end over to help out that tackle. So I'm a big fan of Tyron Smith. He's a tremendous football player. We don't talk about offensive linemen on this show enough, but he's the most talented offensive lineman in the NFL.
Wow, I mean, you said something there twice. That's a hell of a statement. Best offensive lineman in the league, and then buttoned it up with the most talented offensive lineman in the league. And I can't disagree with you. And so when you're evaluating him, it's last year. It's not just the 3 games he missed. The 2 games he missed right around the Zeke suspension when they went 0-2. Then he also missed Week 17, a somewhat meaningless game. They knew they were out of the playoffs. He wasn't healthy. He didn't look like the Tyron Smith from 2015 or 16 at any point last year. When we talk about Zeke getting 1,120 yards on first down in 2016, so many of those highlights are runs to the left, where Tyron Smith mauls his first guy, the D lineman, and then is down even with Zeke, clearing a path to take on a safety or a corner or a linebacker. A healthy Tyron Smith, the athleticism is what separates himself from the other great left tackles. Like his ability to continue the blocks 10 yards downfield, 15 yards downfield. When you ask at the combine, why do we care what a lineman's 40 time is? We don't really care about their 40 time, but maybe their 10 and 20 yard splits in the 40. How quickly can he get there? That's the part of his game we didn't see as much last year because even when he was playing, he wasn't fully healthy.
How much more encouraged are you about what Dak can do and how much more confidence Dak will have if you've got Tyron Smith?
It means a lot. The confidence level of a quarterback, knowing that the backside is protected. It goes to the offense because the coach can call different things. Like, you have more bullets in your gun. You have more arrows in your quiver to be able to go to because, he's a superstar. And we don't say that about offensive linemen too much, but realizing, man, he is that type of football player, and that confidence will go right into the quarterback.
And one other thing you got to realize about the Cowboys' offensive line. We talk about they have 3-star offensive linemen. Well, the other two other than Tyron Smith are interior guys, Zach Martin and Travis Frederick. So when Tyron Smith isn't out there or when he's not 100%, all of a sudden, especially when he's not out there, you're at a negative, not at both tackle spots. It'd be one thing if one of their other star linemen was their right tackle. Like, when he's out of the game, all of a sudden you're a negative at left tackle, you're average at right tackle, and so that you saw the trickle-down effect for their entire offensive line.
All right, new topic, Floyd Mayweather. He retired with a 15-0 record as a boxer after he beat Conor McGregor this past August. He said he will never return to the boxing ring. Someone needs to tell him how retirement actually works. But over the weekend, he hinted at a move to the octagon.
Retirement has been great, but as you know and everybody know, I go in retirement, I come back. I go in retirement, I come back. Is it possible that I come back? Yes, but if I do come back, it has to be in the octagon.
Listen, there's a reason he's even talking about it, because the money is right. It's going to happen.
Okay, so that's not actually retirement. That's just, I'm not going to fight for a while, then I'll just come back, and then
It's the Michael Jordan plan of retirement. I retire, I come back, I retire, I come back, call them all retirements. Go ahead, Jenna.
Teed you up on that one. You fell right for it. You hit like a triple.
I was just saying, I don't know. I don't see the difference, but go ahead.
Do you want to see Floyd Mayweather and Conor go at it again, but this time on Conor's home turf?
Maybe I am in the minority here. I'm not a huge fan of Floyd Mayweather, the guy, seems like not a great guy, given some things he's been accused of, some of the things we know he's done. So we've got to be able to separate that from Floyd Mayweather, the athlete. Floyd Mayweather, the athlete, is one of the most technically sound and physically gifted and dedicated to training athletes of my lifetime. Like, his work ethic is second to none. His training regimen is, amongst boxing historians, they would say it's as good as anyone of the modern era. And so I say all that to say this. If he actually wanted to do this seriously, and they weren't going to say this fight's in 8 weeks, but if he dedicated himself to training for mixed martial arts for the bulk of a year, to where he could minimize where his obvious weaknesses would be in the octagon.
Are you going to say that he's got a chance to compete or a chance to win?
I would say that I would not question Floyd Mayweather's ability in a combat sport if he dedicates himself to the training required for it. Obviously, there's no kicking in boxing, there's no takedowns in boxing. He would have to be fully and truly dedicated to learning how to avoid the takedowns, learning how to sustain the kicks. But this guy is a special athlete of this era. So I wouldn't, yes, I'd be interested in seeing it. Assuming it's not happening in a couple months. Assuming he was actually going to dedicate himself to it, to give himself the best chance to actually win, not just collect a check. Right. Yes, I'd be interested.
What do you think?
Absolutely.
I call myself dedicated. I spend a lot of time working out, working on my craft to play football. I spend a lot of time playing golf. I ain't no damn pro, though. So to try to think that you're going to get a carryover, because I'm an expert in boxing, I'm an expert with my defense, I'm the best that I've ever seen in the boxing game as far as being able to avoid punches, and you think that's going to carry over to grappling on the ground, mixed martial arts?
It's a different sport.
Okay, y'all pick the class for which we're going to fight in. Let me pick the fighter, okay? Because if this is the real UFC that I'm a fan of, this is not WWE.
Yes.
This ain't no arrangement, all right?
It's scripted.
Okay, look at them legs. Those legs are not built for UFC. Okay, so I don't give him no carryover because, I'm an expert in this area, and then, we can carry that over to another sport. And if you give me enough time, at 40 years old, no. No, if he was 20 years old, then maybe there might be some legitimacy to that. But at this age, no, he's not becoming no third-degree black belt. Like, these people are dangerous. He can really get hurt in the UFC. So I'm not interested in seeing that. Well, I don't pay for it anyway, but I wouldn't be paying for it.
Let me ask you this. You mentioned you being a golfer. What if while you were still playing football, if you took a year to train and dedicate yourself to being, hold on, I'm not saying golf, to being an amazing center fielder? Do you think you could have become, and I know you could have played the defense part of it. Do you think you could have made yourself an adequate enough hitter to give yourself a chance?
No.
No.
No, the hardest thing in any sport is to hit a fastball or curveball in sport. No, absolutely not. Now, you see Tim Tebow in Double-A, all right? You've only seen a few guys do it. Deion Sanders did it. Bo Jackson did it. No, there ain't no carryover, bruh. No, ain't no carryover, somebody down on your legs and everything compared to being on the VoIP. No. Oh, no. Let me pick the fighter. Dana White, let me pick somebody to fight that dude.
When you say,
I hope his will is made out. Hope his insurance is paid up.
Go ahead.
Because that's what's getting ready to happen.
No, I noticed you asked him, and you didn't ask me if I carried over from, say, like volleyball
I thought
to
you were
any of the
say
other.
Something interesting. Not about your volleyball career.
Oh, because asking him if he could be a professional golfer.
He's a Hall of Fame athlete. You played
It's a completely
volleyball
different
as a
sport.
sophomore at some
It
tiny
is two
school.
different skill sets, completely.
Let's do this.
And it's not a
This is what we're going to do.
What?
We're only going to talk about my career on TV.
Thank you.
And then y'all can talk about y'all's career during the coffee break.
Thank you.
Thank you. We've heard about your basketball donkey for a long
Jenna.
time. All right, you're right.
Thank you.
Walk
Ain't
that
nobody
back.
out there on the volleyball circuit.
Walk that
you.
back. I can. 3 people text me right
Coming
now.
up, can Carson Wentz
Did they
change
text you
his
they were
style
watching
to
the
stay
show?
healthy? Friend of the show, Eric Mangini, joins us. That's
Let's go.
next on First Things First.
Hey.
Welcome back to First Things First. Coach Eric Mangini is here. That was a pregnant pause before.
I heard a scurrilous rumor about you, Coach. That you were out in Los Angeles, cheating on us with other shows. Is that accurate?
No, I was out in Los Angeles. I've heard rumors about you, too, that you got clowned by a 9-year-old in the bracket. But who wants to cover rumors?
Welcome
to see you. How are you?
Congrats to your son.
Yeah,
Coach's son finished second.
God, I was waiting to see Nick for a long time. I missed you last week.
Tell him in the
In the
NCAA
whole,
pool.
the entire FS1 pool, first place, Angelina, who worked with us.
NCAA pool.
Second place, Coach Mangini's son.
By a point.
Congrats to him by a point. Yep.
Awesome. Good stuff right there. All right, been a busy few months for the Eagles. They won the Super Bowl and signed more firepower, and they got their franchise quarterback back in Carson Wentz. All good, right? I mean, before his injury in Week 14, Wentz was the favorite to win the MVP. Instead, he blew out his knee, diving for the end zone, and was done for the season. Head coach Doug Peterson says he wants his quarterback to learn how to protect himself, saying, quote, longevity is everything in this business. Coach, does Carson Wentz need to change his playing style to avoid injury or to fit into the mold that Doug Peterson wants him to try to do?
Yes, he should change his style. Now, all that being said, you want guys to change and adjust, but your ability to actually get them to change in those situations isn't very good, and it's not very high percentage. I don't know if you guys remember when Mark Sanchez was having problems learning how to slide, and Rex brought in the sliding coach from the Mets. You know, that didn't really work out too well. You look at, there's a lot of quarterbacks who you hope will make better business decisions. And what that means is don't take a hit to get a 6-yard completion. Andrew Luck is a lot like that, where he'll stay in the pocket, he'll take unnecessary damage to get really a marginal gain. And you try to get guys out of that mold.
Right. It's funny how, especially with the world champ, and especially with a younger player, how they're like, hey, this guy needs to change his game. Well, Aaron Rodgers got hurt. We don't seem to have the question up there for Green Bay. Is Green Bay talking to Aaron Rodgers this year? How he can stay in the pocket, maybe, and potentially so, because when he's out of the lineup, our franchise is a lot different. But now when you're world champion, you're under a microscope. Of course, all these questions about changes. What about your personnel? NFL executives don't like your personnel. That is the price you pay to be a champion. But also, you become learned once you get into this league. You realize, too, no one can tell Carson Wentz how fast the defenders were until he got hit in Los Angeles, till he realized, man, I couldn't get around that defensive lineman. That DB got up on me. So even though coaches say this, most of these coaches haven't played in the league. So when you have a guy like Frank Wright, it does help. When you do have Doug, who is the quarterback and has played in the league for a long time, it does help because they played the same position. This is a theme of NFL teams. I don't care how athletic you are. I don't care how non-athletic you are. But if you get hurt, you hurt the franchise. It's not like an injury to one of the other members of the team. So you do have to be cognizant of it. Now, how much can you change? You can change a small bit, but this is a contact sport. They're going to get hurt. But what you do get is you get smarter. And that is because the experience in being in those live games, your experience and the speed for which the game comes at you, you're familiar with it.
Coach, can I just say, isn't this what we fell in love with Carson with last season? Those third and long, scrambling, crazy situations. It's what's made us put him sort of up there with in that echelon of elite quarterbacks. Isn't that what you're going to be stripping of him if you tell him to not be as mobile?
No, that's not really what I was looking at. You don't want to take that aspect away from him, and you don't want to take a lot of the good things that come from scramble plays. And a guy like Ben Roethlisberger, one of the greatest things he does is being able to stand strong in the pocket, being able to extend plays, and that's great. And Russell Wilson, the plays that he makes moving out of the pocket, you don't want to take that element away, but it's when you're taking a hit to complete like a 8-yard curl route.
Right. Just that little simple skill right there.
Just that.
Not the overall quarterbacking.
Right.
Okay.
You're not looking to say, hey, don't do the things that make you really good and that we like and that help us. But when you're looking at the grand scheme of things, just make sure that the reward is worth the risk.
Which is why this conversation is so interesting, and I think it can be tough for people to have, because the play in which he got hurt was absolutely a play where the reward was worth the risk, even though you didn't think the risk would be out for the season. You've got to keep in mind the time score situation of this. They were no lockup for the 1 seed at this point in time. They weren't even a lock to have a first-round bye at this point in time. The Rams are on their tail. This is a close football game. It's not going for a few extra yards. It's going for a touchdown, right? So, I understand why Carson Wentz in that spot would be like, man, I've got to go for it. I know it's first and goal, so maybe you have more shots at it. But in general, it's the other hits that aren't in week 14 against a team you're competing with for home field at the goal line in a critical situation that you're talking about. Like, Cece, you've said a lot of times, every quarterback in the league would get injured getting hit like this. It's not like he's injury prone.
If they make the decision that he did to go inside, I guarantee you Carson Wentz, if they asked him, Doug Peterson, we're evaluating the film, and said, stop the film right there. What should you do? He's going to be like, oh, I'm going to dip outside. Got Clement out there. Either I'm going to go out of bounds. You're talking about down in distance. Hell, it's first down. Man, you could either throw it away, you could slide. You still got 2 more opportunities. You don't have to make that risky play. It wasn't late in the fourth quarter. It wasn't one of those kind of plays going to change their season. So the more reps you get, the more situation you become familiar, and you could still make an aggressive play by running outside compared to running into traffic.
So Frank Reich has had similar comments to this. Frank Reich, when he was asked about Carson Wentz, he said, listen, we talked to him about it, and the way Frank Reich put it is it was kind of in one ear, out the other. In your guys' opinion, is what's going to make it resonate with him now is what happened there? Is that he didn't get to be a part of the Super Bowl run. He didn't get to be a part of any of the playoffs. That he finally saw, okay, so this is what you guys are talking about. This is what can happen.
Well, a guy like RG3, people talk to him, they talk to him, and he kept the same pattern up, and obviously he had injuries. And I know even talking to my kids sometimes, I'll say, hey, the oven's hot. Hey, the oven's hot. Hey, the oven's hot. Then they touch it and get burned. They're like, they can't believe that the oven's hot. And you're trying to have them learn from the experiences of people that went before them. And it's not a question of, are they tough enough? Are they, it's not a man, whatever you want to equate it to. It's just be smart. We need you. We need you for the long term. You have a responsibility to all these people to be there for us.
If that's your intuition as a quarterback, to go for those plays, the curl routes or the little 6-yard game, if that's who you are as a quarterback, how hard is that as a player and as a coach to teach a player to say, hey, take this small part of your game where that comes without even thinking and just cut that back a little?
When you're younger, the game is moving fast. But as you become a veteran, the game moves at a different speed. And when you become a superstar, the game begins to slow down.
Where do you put Carson Wentz?
He's going to be a superstar, but he's still in the process. If he had the same play happen at year number 3, he would be able to get a different result because he's seen it before. Now, your instincts are one thing, but you have to do what's the right thing for the organization. And that he'll understand more now because sitting out there watching a playoff game, watching the confetti come down, and you're in street clothes, those things will resonate now because what the coach told you, we got a proven example that you can get hurt. And when you've never been hurt before, it's hard to really imagine that, oh, I can get hurt like the rest of the guys.
And here's the other interesting thing. With Tom Brady, with Peyton Manning, even with Dan Marino back in the day, because they would get the ball away so quickly on a free blitzer or if you brought pressure, teams stopped blitzing. They stopped bringing pressure because they know it's just not worth it. It's not worth putting all that time and effort during the week, trying to get it right, the possible mistakes, the chances that you take in coverage, because you know those guys aren't going to let you hit them even if you blitz.
Right.
So it actually takes away a whole element where you can get hurt, where those guys that hold the ball, it's like, all right, dial it up, dial it up, dial it up.
That's what we saw happen under Luck a lot. And that's when Luck does come back, we'll see if he's made that adjustment.
And also, you see, that's the theory with Cam Newton. That's why they go after Cam, because Cam runs so much week after week after week. Carson, that's not where they want him to be when he gets to Cam's at that point in his career.
Coach, stick around. Coming up, is it time to forget about trading Odell Beckham Jr.? We haven't talked about it a lot, so that's good. That's next on First Things First. Back here on First Things First with Coach Mangini. Last week, trade rumors were flying about Odell Beckham Jr. You know, I wondered aloud, in the form of a question to everyone here at the table, whether we thought Odell had perhaps realized that all the distractions were, I don't know, costing him. The answer seemingly was a resounding yes, because the team holds their first day of offseason workouts today, and guess who's going to be there? Odell has told reporters that he'll show up, even without the new contract that he covets. Coach, how important is it for Odell and the Giants that he is showing up today?
I think this is great. I think it's the right move by him to be able to go in and spend some time with the new head coach, with the new GM, with the new coaching staff, to allow them to see the things that he's capable of doing up close. That has huge value to say to the organization that I am willing to work with you guys. I'm willing to be part of what is happening here. I'm excited about those things. And just to let people get to know you. That's an important part of this relationship. If you're going to commit to someone long term, if you're going to commit to someone in a significant way financially, you want to know that they're all in and that they believe in the same things that you believe in. So this is a great first step. It's also a good first step in terms of if they want to trade him, because it shows that he's willing to work within the system too. So this is positive. Whether he shows up today, let's see where that goes, because I've had guys say to me, hey, I'll be there the first day, and then I don't see him for a week.
But everything that's happened so far this offseason, it would be in his best interest to show up, would it not?
Yeah, I totally agree with this move.
But let's not get the reports mixed up. When people talk about Odell not showing up, Odell said he wouldn't show up for training camp without a new contract. He has never said he wouldn't show up for the off-season workouts. From my communication with him, it's always been that was a go date.
And that's for fear of getting hurt?
Well,
what's the difference then?
Aaron Donald. There's other players that holding out for training camp when they're in that fifth-year option. All right? So this is normal, fairly normal for guys going into that fifth year if they're going to show up or not, having that conversation. Off-season OTAs, the first day of all season, no. Odell planned on showing up. So it's not as if he did a reverse. No, he planned on showing up.
And you said, what's the difference? The other difference is it is in the negotiation, it is more reasonable to say, okay, we're working on a long-term deal. It's not done by, what's today, April 9th? Mm-hmm. It's not done by April 9th. But if it's not done by August 9th, that's around the start of training camp, then we got a problem. So I think that's a more reasonable, it's fair to everyone involved. And I understand we've talked about a lot of the weaknesses of Odell off the field. One of his strengths is, for good or for bad at times, is he is a leader on that team. And when you have a totally new regime there, it is important. If the Giants are going to have a successful 2018, the start of the 2018 football year for the New York Giants is today. essentially. It's the first, like, coach gets to have everyone there. As you mentioned, CC, he gets to set an agenda. You've been a new coach in that situation, meeting with guys getting everyone there for the first time. It's important all your guys are there, and it's important that you're able to set the tone for what your expectations are for the year moving forward. At least I would imagine it is. And that's much easier done with the best player on your team there as well.
Yeah, I don't know if he is a leader or not a leader in terms of the locker room. I'm not sure that he is.
From his teammates, or at least the teammates we've talked to, he seems like he is. For especially the younger guys. I'm not saying he's a leader of Eli, but Snacks Harrison has said so. Some of the guys we've talked to, we know the other wide
Sometimes
receivers.
leadership, though, people take it the wrong way. Because, yes, there are people following Odell. And as we could see, there were people following him down to Miami. So sometimes is that leadership positive? That's what coach is saying. Yeah, I know there's people following him, but is he going to be doing the right thing? So coach is looking at good leadership, good responsibility. And when you're starting your first day, your regime, it's important that you have the star players brought in to what you're selling and the players that you're paying the most money to or into the future that they're buying into what you're doing.
Yeah, that's a great point. And it's also important to know that if Odell gets hurt while he's in the building and part of the offseason program, his contract is protected. If Odell gets hurt working out in L.A. or somewhere else, that contract isn't protected. That happens. That's a non-football injury.
Even if he's practicing football.
So it is in your best interest to do those things in-house. Mm-hmm. Also, being able to go see the owner again, being able to just be in the building, to send that sign. It's a small thing, but it's a huge thing, and it's a step in the right direction. And I would take that very positively.
I just think that it's tremendous irony, too. We're talking about a player going to off-season workouts and like, oh, that's a good thing. Well, that's just normal procedure. We got a bunch of stars around the league. They're all going to OTAs, and we're not bringing them up. But I just think there's
I think that's a really important point. Is that's where our bar is set with this player, is that we have to get excited about him showing up to something.
I don't think that's. Hold on. I don't think that's entirely fair because it was, Cece. It wasn't the first one, but it was off-season workouts when you and I were in a gym in L.A. working out with Odell last year. It was OTAs, it was optional, that he was not attending, that you were working out with him, that there was a big hubbub about. So the Odell showing up to every bit of the, and we don't know if he will show up to every bit, but of the optional team stuff, last year he did not. So and he, by the way, last year, just like he's not the only superstar showing up this year, he was not the only superstar that didn't show up last year. Like the owners have done a kind of tricky thing in here, and one of the things they gave the players in the CBA was fewer mandatory workouts, and then there's some shaming that goes on if you don't show up to what is considered the optional portion of it. But we just have to look back to last offseason, the gym we were at in LA with Odell, while the team was doing OTAs.
And also, no one's really spoken to Odell since any of this has happened. No one knows how he feels about the team, where the team is, and how they feel about Odell. The best thing for him would be, whether he should be there or not, whether it's normal or not, for him to walk in, show new management, hey, I'm here. This is what I'm committed to. You guys know I want a new contract, but let's, first things first, let me get in the building, meet everyone.
Yeah, but this is not difficult. Odell loves to work out. He loves working on his body. He wants to get better. He realized the aspect. He works on his total body, too. So he loves the ugly things about the NFL. So for me, I'm not surprised that he would be showing up. I don't think it's that big of a deal that he is showing up, Coach.
I'm just curious to see whether this will be a one-off. Is he going to be there today, or is he going to be there throughout the whole course of the program? Is he going to actually show up today? And when he is in New York and when he is with the team, is this going to be the last thing that we hear about Odell, or are there going to be other things that come up, whether it's in the city or wherever?
Well, and I don't know if either one of you guys disagree with this. While it might not be the biggest of deals that he will show up today, I think it would potentially be a pretty big deal were he not to show 100%. Up today. Does that make sense? Given everything that's going on,
what would he gain by not showing up?
I don't think much. I'm not agreed. That's kind of my point, is that it seems to me like both sides, even though Odell has done some things that's going to make it more difficult than it should be, both sides ideally would like Odell Beckham Jr. to be a Giant for the entirety of his career.
I keep saying this. The Giants are doing their part. The only part in question is Odell going to do his part. The Giants in their stance has not changed. Okay, so trying to act like these two parties are trying to come together, the Giants have been consistent. Odell has not been consistent. That's what the conversation should be about.
And we've set the bar nice and low, so we get excited about him.
You can just skip over it, Coach.
You hate that so much.
Coach, is all the trade talk behind us, do you think?
No. Nope.
So you're wavering on this. All right, think about it and then get back to me when you have yourself an answer,
when I can really make a decision, I'll let you know.
Okay, perfect. Coach, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Always a good time. I'm Jenna Wolf, and thank you for listening to the First Things First podcast. Make sure to subscribe and tell your friends, family, and coworkers about the podcast, which, by the way, is available on iTunes and all your favorite podcast apps. You can catch a fresh new episode every Monday through Friday on FS1, starting at 6:30 a.m. Eastern, 3:30 a.m. Pacific. So long.